Hello, class. This is Professor Satterwhite, of course, and I am here today to talk about the Memoir of Place. So, the Memoir of Place is, as the name implies, a memoir that is focusing on you, but is also focusing on a specific place. And when I say a place, what I mean is not a broad place, like a city or a state or a country, but instead is specifically focusing on something a little bit more precise. I'll give you a few examples. Some of my students in the past have written really great memoirs that focused on tables. I remember that one in particular was focusing on a dining room table where a student had many a great dinner with his grandmother, and since his grandmother had passed, that this was a place that was special to him. So that was one. Another one that a student had written was about a wardrobe. A wardrobe, being a large closet. And this woman who was a student of mine, she was from Syria, and she had written about this wardrobe, said her grandmother's wardrobe was a place that meant a lot to her as a young child. And in that wardrobe, she dressed up in her grandmother's clothes, she wore her grandmother's shoes, like a lot of little kids do. And she had a lot of close connections to this wardrobe. And why it was special to her was because when the Civil War started in Syria, her home was destroyed, and unfortunately also was the wardrobe itself. So when she thinks of the wardrobe, she thinks of her youth and also thinks of her home and her family and her country. So even though the story is about something bigger, in that instance, war, family, country, that what she localized it in was in the wardrobe, one little small space. Similar to the other student who had a bigger story, again about family, grandmothers. They come up a lot in our stories, and also death. And what this person did was they focused on one specific place. And why I'd like for you to focus on a smaller place instead of a larger city is because you only have 200 to 250 words to do this essay. And because it's fairly short, there's no way that you're going to write a really good essay if it's broadly focused on London or your trip to Paris or even your first time here in Pensacola. So what I'd like for you to do is to focus on something very specific, unique. This will make you think for a little while. So in some ways, maybe you can think of a story that might say something about you. And we'll revisit this in different parts of the class. But think about how a story that might relay something about you to your audience and why it's important to you, and then find that specific place in your world and then write about it. Okay, so if you have any questions about what it should look like, I have an example that's posted in the assignment sheet. So if you take a look at the assignment sheet just below where the assignment itself is listed and the specifics for the assignment, I have one example. In that example, the focus is on a driveway, and in that driveway it was, again, my grandmother, a grandmother's driveway, and the student had written about that and talked about an accident that the student had and how the driveway itself reminds him of his grandma and also reminds him of his family. So these are just different ways that people can write these. There's no shortage of stories that people have in class. I can give you a lot of other examples, but I think you can find your own. I think you can find some really great ones if you really mind your mind in bringing up some good stories, because that's what we're looking for. What you'll be graded on is not the story itself, but really your writing. This is your first written assignment in the class, so I'm going to be looking at your writing. I'm going to be looking at how well you write, if there's anything I need to be aware of. So in some ways, it's a diagnostic exercise for me. So I'll be diagnosing any issues that I might see with you. However, what I'm going to be looking at is the story as well. So I'll be looking at the story, but the main thing I'm going to be looking at is the writing. What I'd really like for you to do is to keep this within the word count, because this is a good time for you to practice editing. So even though the stories might be big, I want you to keep it to 200 to 250 words, no less, but no more than those words. All right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I am at your disposal. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I will see you very soon.